Hey y'all, it's Olivia. This is for the Module 3 discussion board. Um, so to jump right in it, for the required question, in what ways could you vary your teaching techniques to ensure that you are reaching all of the various learning styles you may have in your classroom? So to start out, I'm kind of paraphrasing from page 167 in our textbook, The Teaching Strategies, a guide to effective instruction. One way that I can ensure that I'm reaching all the different learning styles in my classroom would be to implement multiple types of activities and techniques into my lesson that would engage all of the learning types. Um, Kind of following along with that, also not only making sure that I use a bunch of different types of activities and methods would also be to like kind of switch things up between every lesson or two. And to go more in depth in that, don't use the same types of activities every single lesson, such as like presentations or like um, the same worksheets every single lesson, because that can cause the class to start to feel very repetitive and boring for students, and that can cause them to feel less motivated in the class and less motivated to learn. Also, kind of following along with that, being being able to keep up with the activities that do and don't work is going to be very crucial, because if you keep implementing like activities that students don't like and you don't get a lot of good feedback from, it's going to cause the students in the classroom to not be able to learn as well because they're not liking what they're doing. But if you find an activity or if you find an activity that the students respond very well to, finding other activities that are similar to it, so they're not doing the same thing every time, but finding similar activities will help the students to feel more engaged in the classroom, more motivated. They'll react very well to it. Um, sorry. For question 2, I picked, what graphic organizers could you use to represent concepts in your subject area of teaching, and how do graphic organizers work for children? So my preferred subject of teaching would be history or social studies for middle grades. So for the history or the social studies subject, I would most likely want to use tables, timelines, and content outlines to present the concepts in that subject. Having the content outline for the lesson that the students were about to learn and being able to for the students to see it and go over it, it would help the students have an overview of what they were going to be going over in the lesson and what they're expected to know by the end of the lesson. Timelines are a very useful thing to use in history and social studies classes, because they lay out major events over a certain time period or details in a major event that you would be going over in class. And also, tables, the last graphic organizer that I said that I would use most likely they're vital in history classes, because they can be used to show statistics of a major event in history, such as a war. So they could show how many tanks were used for each side, how many deaths each side had, stuff like that. On page 161 in our textbook, it states that graphic organizers aid both teaching and learning by making thinking visible. This helps students the graphic organizers help students because it's a visual that they can refer to in case they get stumped while doing an activity, or they just can't remember parts of the method or the process that they need to use for the activity. Having the visual for a lot of students, having the visual in front of them can help them learn better, because some students learn better by actually seeing the process like laid out rather than hearing it. So for them to just have the visual in front of them so they can look at will help them be able to remember the process more rather than just hearing it and then just having to try and remember it from hearing it that one